The Pathways Alliance is led by Innovate EDU and, of course, is an uncommon coalition of leading education organizations that have been dedicated to supporting and implementing inclusive educator preparation pipelines, including teacher residencies and teacher apprenticeship programs. Next slide, please. A little bit of why we began this work, because the educator workforce stands at a crossroads. And of course, we have really tried to really come together at an unprecedented time for education. Of course, the COVID-19 pandemic magnified longstanding challenges. Of course, teacher shortages, declining enrollment in preparation programs, and burnout across the system. Amid the disruption, something remarkable happened. Leaders across organizations came together with a shared commitment to reimagine educator preparation and strengthen the education workforce pipeline. That collaboration became the foundation for the Pathways Alliance. Next slide, please. The Alliance started with a clear purpose to strengthen and scale effective educator preparation systems during a time of challenge and change. From day one, our goals were ambitious to establish a shared definition of a teacher residency, build a centralized resource library to support continuous improvement, position the Alliance as a trusted partner for state and local leaders, curate and promote learning opportunities across the field, and spotlight effective, affordable, and different pathways into the profession. These goals continue to guide our mission today. Next slide, please. What started as a collaboration among a few like-minded organizations has really grown into a national coalition that's driving systemic change. Our founding partners include AACTE, Deans for Impact, Innovate EDU, the Learning Policy Institute, ASU's Mary Fulton Teachers College, National Center for Teacher Residencies, Prepared to Teach, Public Impact, and Full Scale. Each brought unique expertise to the table. Together, we built systems, standards, and partnerships that ensure every aspiring educator has a clear and supported pathway into education. The Pathways envisions a radically transformed learning ecosystem, one where every learner has access to high-quality education and every educator has a sustainable pathway into the field. Our mission centers on collaboration and trust. We build transparency through shared data and definitions, leverage the wisdom of our coalition, and work relentlessly to close gaps in access, affordability, and opportunity for aspiring teachers. To simply put that, we're not just building programs, we're building a movement grounded in partnership and impact. Next slide, please. Today, we have over 80 partner organizations and over 100 actual partners in our coalition. And this is groundbreaking partnership and impact that we are extremely proud of and that we continue to look forward to adding to for years to come. Next slide, please. And you're good. Thank you. A little bit of background about where we started. A pivotal moment came in August of 2022 when education leaders gathered at the White House, including secretaries of education and labor, and ambassadors and leaders from AFT, NEA, AACTE, NGA, and CCSSL. The message was clear. The nation must build a stronger, more sustainable pathway into teaching. At the time, only 2 states, New York and Tennessee, had registered teacher apprenticeship programs. Soon after, a Dear Colleague letter from the Department of Education and Labor called on every state to follow suit. That moment helped solidify the need for an organized national response, and the Pathways Alliance was ready to lead it. Next slide, please. Okay. One of our earliest milestones was publishing the definition of a teacher residency and also our National Guideline Standards, and 2 sets of the NGS for K-12 teaching apprenticeship, one for collective bargaining environments and one for non-collective bargaining environments. The National Guideline Standards allowed for adaptability to state licensure requirements while maintaining essential elements of their design. These resources became Creative Commons tools to help states and local partners build and strengthen their own pathways. I'll pass it off to our wonderful partner, Jill Pittner from NCTR, to talk about a little bit of her experience on our first report towards a national definition of teacher residencies.
Great. I'm super excited to be here today. Thanks, Sabrina, for the handoff. Something I'm really proud of is when you look at this slide, this relates really to the first goal that the Pathways Alliance put forward, and that was to establish a shared definition. I had the good fortune to co-lead a working group with Karen DeMoss from Prepared to Teach. And what we did is I want to share with you just a little bit about the process because this was our first working group in Pathways Alliance. So Karen and I co-led the working group. It was inclusive. It was open to anybody who wanted to work on the definition. So we brought that group together. We articulated what our goals were and what we were trying to accomplish. And if you think about it, putting forward a shared definition for the field is going to help all of us move forward. So we were really thrilled to lead this working group. There were about 6 of us working internally on this shared definition. And then what we did is we opened this up for national feedback. We opened it up to our own networks and to, education leaders across the country, teachers, teacher prep, all across the education field to get input. And so it is something that all of us can be really proud of that the Pathways Alliance could build off of. This report is a national definition that can be shared. And we did put a stake in the ground to say, this is our effort to create a shared definition. Let's keep working together. So not only did we put forward this first report together, but we also started a process of how to work together within the Pathways Alliance. Sabrina, did you want me to do the next slide too?
Nope, I can take over for
Okay.
now. Thank you, Jill.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you. The National Guideline Standards for K through 12 registered apprenticeships was really another pivotal moment for the Alliance. And it was a defining moment as well. For the first time, there was a nationally recognized framework outlining what registered teacher apprenticeship programs must include, from professional skill development to mentorship and evaluation. Today, these standards are being used by states and preparation providers to align with workforce systems and a set of consistent bar for quality. Like Jill mentioned, we also had a working group for this, and we thank everybody for their countless hours, attention to detail, attention to quality, and their efforts for seeing this over the finish line. We were, as an alliance, we're one of the first ones to have a set of national guideline standards out, and we were super excited about the work that we had put out. And honestly, these guideline standards really are a way to outline quality and, of course, fulfillment in apprenticeship programs. I'll now pass it on to Erin Moat, Innovate EDU CEO, to talk a little bit about where we are now and kind of our look ahead.
Well, I have to say to our audience, thank you for being here, and thank you to all the founding partners who are joining us on this call. As Sabrina, you were passing it over to me, I was looking for like the little reaction button so I could open with the confetti, but it doesn't look like I have that on this Zoom. But just imagine, I'm just gonna put my hands up like confetti right now, but just really want to take the moment, the step back to celebrate and to say, look at what we've done together, and look at what we've done in partnership, and look at how we've really driven quality, diverse, affordable pathways into the teaching profession to meet that moment. So where are we now? Well, Sabrina told you when the National Guideline Standards launched not so long ago, there were 2 states who had implemented registered apprenticeships for K-12 teachers. Now we're at 40 states and Puerto Rico. Y'all, I am waiting for that 50. We're all going to get headbands that say 50 when we get to all 50 states. But it's a really, really exciting opportunity to see growth on earn and learn pathways and the use of the National Guideline Standards to rapidly grow a cohort of about 2,500 active registered teacher apprentices right now. In all of these states really working at these programs. And we have gone from just 2 states with, less than 50 apprentices when we started to 1,500 apprentices who have graduated in these programs. This is remarkable growth and frankly, a remarkable way to hold a quality bar while we are also giving folks who frankly like paraprofessionals who are already working in our schools and communities, folks who want to have earn and learn opportunities in becoming a teacher, really the opportunity to raise their hand, serve their communities, and serve our classrooms. And again, this hasn't just been the effort of Innovate EDU and the founding partners, this has been the effort of all of us. And so let's take a moment to celebrate that. Next slide. I think it's really important to talk about sort of where we're going. And I know Sabrina is going to moderate a discussion in just a little bit with some of our founding partners to talk about this. But we are not done yet. While we've checked off so many of those initial goals, the Alliance continues to grow and continue to really think about those diversity of affordable pathways into the profession. And in doing so, we've engaged through our Pathways members, over 45 states. There are 380 Pathways sites that are mapped both through our compendium and Alliance partners. We have 5 active working groups. One that is, I gotta say, you guys, it might be my favorite. Data infrastructure. I love it. Our data infrastructure working group, which is really thinking about the foundational level that our programs need in order not just to do compliance data, but really to empower learners, employers, educators with the data they need to make sure that the folks who are going through these programs are having quality experiences and staying in the profession. Tutor apprentices, we're going to have some really exciting news very, very soon. Let me tease that. Also, principal apprentices, we'll have some more exciting news very soon on that front. Our K-12 teacher apprenticeship work, and finally, our newest work group, AI in education, really thinking about the role that educator preparation programs need to play in AI literacy and in really helping our sector, our educators, and our educator preparation candidates meet this moment when it comes to AI literacy and integrating this emerging technology with the safety, security, balancing that promise and peril of AI in education. We think this is going to be some really great work over the next year. So if you're interested in either that or the tutor work or the principal work or the data infrastructure work, please do raise your hand and reach out to Sabrina. And then finally, we're going to continue to create these cross-sector partnerships that include state education agencies and policymakers, higher education institutions, the amazing intermediaries that we have in our space, nonprofits, and institutions of higher education. Really, the reason we've grown, we've been able to deliver on this promise of affordable, diverse pathways into the profession is because we've done it together. And with that, I'll pass it right back over to Sabrina. Sabrina.
Thank you, Erin. And I would be remiss if I did not really mention that one of the most powerful aspects of the Pathways Alliance has always been the voices behind the work. The progress that we've made isn't just reflected in data or reports. It's seen in the experience of our partners, states, and programs who are implementing these ideas every day. Across the country, our coalition members are leading the way in building high-quality, sustainable teacher residencies and registered apprenticeship pathways. They've been showing us that when systems align, when the preparation programs, districts, and workforce partners work together, we can transform how the next generation of educators enter the profession. So today, I am honored to be joined by several of our partners and also some of our founding organizations and several leaders in the space. And I will pass it off, and you'll be hearing a lot about their experiences and where their work now lies. And I will pass it off to Jill, and she will kick us off. Thank you, Jill.
Hi, thanks. I love having the mic again. Thank you so much. I'm going to really connect back to the National Guideline Standards and to the shared definition of teacher residencies. So NCTR, the National Center for Teacher Residencies, we're a nonprofit and we've been around almost 20 years. And over that time, we've had the opportunity to help to launch more than 125 teacher residencies in, 30 states in DC. But what I think is really exciting is bringing people along on this journey. That if you think about it, that we've been doing this work for a while and it was a little bit lonely at the beginning. And at the beginning, what we were doing is trying to get to proof point with the model. And going back to Aaron's point about data, you need the data to demonstrate impact and to create a willing coalition to come along. So we were thrilled over time to gather that data and to get to proof point. So we'll go to the next slide and I'll tell you a little bit about some of the proof that we've gotten to. So you can go ahead and click again. You can see those reports on the right-hand side and go ahead and click on through. I won't go row by row. Thank you. On the right-hand side is that towards a definition of teacher residencies and the National Guideline Standards. And these two reports are or guideline standards really set the bar and are really important for the field and important for all of us in our goal to strengthen teacher preparation, to create an accessible and a robust pathway to teaching. So I think that what happened over time is that Pathways Alliance and this type of coalition creates an accelerator effect where, go back to those data. When we started and put out the National Guideline Standards, there were 2 states that were focusing on registered apprenticeships, and now we're at 49. So you can see right there the kind of impact that this kind of work is having, all of us, individually in our own context, but then also collectively. So we'll go to the next slide. One thing we wanted to do at NCTR was to help the field think about the lessons learned. Since teacher residencies have been around for a while, we want people to learn from the teacher residency model and apply those learnings to help strengthen apprenticeship models. So NCTR issued a report last spring, and thank you to Pathways Alliance. It is part of your resource center. It's included there. And that report was really highlighting some of the learnings and practices from residencies that can be applied. Our goal, again, is that we're creating accessible and robust pathways to teaching. We'll go to the next slide. So one of the questions that Pathways Alliance said to us is, well, what do you see happening next? And again, thinking about this accelerator, is this opportunity to change systems? Sometimes you need to start at proof point and then you can move up and go back to systems because you've got the proof. And so that's where we see the work happening next, is getting to the systems level, engaging states, EPPs, districts, teachers union, labor, and community-based organizations to all plug in and bring their talent and expertise to help us to strengthen teacher preparation across an ecosystem. So NCTR is working in different states at all of those levels to align policies, funding, people, and strategies in order to create systems-wide change. On the right-hand side is our impact framework, and this is the framework that we're using in order to support that work. Within, it could be a region, it could be a state, it could be across a city. So that impact framework is helping us to help people create coherence, again, to achieve that goal of strengthening teacher preparation to make it accessible and robust. Thank you for your time. So now I'm going to pass it to Deans for Impact. And Jeff's going to go next.
Thank you so much, Jill. My name's Jeff Carlisle. I'm the policy manager here at Deans for Impact. We're a national nonprofit that works with educator preparation programs and policymakers to ensure that every child has access to a well-prepared teacher. And we were really grateful to work alongside folks from this group to help co-chair the committee that ended up developing the National Guideline Standards for Registered Teacher Apprenticeship Programs back in 23. We were founded here in Texas. And so when we were talking to folks at the Texas Education Agency, which, by the way, Texas is an Office of Apprenticeship state. And so programs do not actually need to be formally approved by Texas in order to form. So the state was telling us, we're not sure how many programs exist in Texas. What is happening inside of these programs? It's just kind of this black box. Can you help us figure that out? And so we created a survey and conducted interviews with all the RTAPs we could find evidence of existing across the state. And we developed this analysis called Fueling the Lone Star Teacher Pipeline. And I want to point to one important question that we asked in there was in the first 2 years of apprenticeship programs existing in Texas, what how are programs aligning to these national guideline standards? And there are I think 7 key areas from these national guideline standards that we highlighted to look at. And when we surveyed these programs, a number of interesting patterns pulled out. One, there was a particularly low rate of mentor to apprenticeship ratios going on. We're like, well, okay, what's going on there? But more concerning was that there were programs where someone could finish the apprenticeship program, but not result in a valid Texas teacher certification. So then it raises the question, well, what's the point of doing this if you're not going to be a certified teacher, right? And so the development of this report has informed the work that Texas is actually doing now to create its own set of Texas guidelines for apprenticeship programs, along with technical assistance and grant programs. We can go to the next slide, please. Speaking of Texas, we've also been doing a lot of work to elevate stories of teaching and learning within apprenticeship programs. We've visited urban, suburban, and rural apprenticeship programs and then lifted up storytelling efforts from these programs to highlight what are the really strong examples that we see coming out of these that other programs might be able to use as a model. And then in the picture below, we've done 2 legislative briefings with the Texas legislature alongside our Texas side partners to try and elevate some of those policies, many of which ended up making it into the recently passed House Bill 2, an $8.5 billion investment in education, 400 million of which is going towards educator preparation, in particular residencies. And apprenticeship programs can be eligible for that funding if they end in a year-long residency. We've also been supporting the work of Louisiana to have the 3 main agencies in charge of an apprenticeship think about coherence. This was born out of the Louisiana Teacher Recruitment, Recovery, and Retention Task Force that we were supporting for the past few years. The biggest thing that they're interested in there is they've had a year-long residency requirement for a number of years, but it only results in a $3,000 stipend that you get upon graduation. It's not a guarantee that candidates are actually getting paid throughout the program. And so what they want to leverage is, as one example of why this apprenticeship work can be great, is how can we ensure that a teacher candidate is getting compensated and not paying tuition to work? That is a really important thing that Louisiana is trying to figure out here. The last example I want to lift up is the New Jersey's effort to create what a tutor to teacher pathway might look like through a apprenticeship program. So the New Jersey Tutoring Corps partnered with the U.S. Department of Labor to make tutoring an apprenticeable occupation, and they're now the first registered tutor apprenticeship program in the country. But they're also thinking about how does this actually create a pipeline into ed prep. So for example, some of the coursework that you complete through the tutor training can actually satisfy licensure requirements or certain coursework requirements as part of an ed prep program, saving a candidate a lot of money. And we were really thankful to be able to work with the New Jersey Tutoring Corps to help them develop this set of tutoring national guideline standards. And hopefully some good news coming about those pretty soon. And then They are also a member of our Aspiring Teachers as Tutors network. And so really thinking about what's the connection between high impact tutoring and educator preparation, both in terms of recruitment, but also really valuable clinical experiences. And yeah, Sabrina, I'll hand it off to whoever's next.
Thank you. We will be hearing from Prepared to Teach and Francesca Santos. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, based on where you are. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about Prepare to Teach and our role and mission in supporting a systems solution. And we can go on to the next slide. So Prepare to Teach exists to shift the preparation ecosystem with a focus on funding for candidates so that every aspiring teacher can graduate from a high quality residency. We've been working within this realm for the past 10 years or so, and our work really exists to support systems change necessary towards residencies as a primary pathway into the profession, expanding quality and access. And as we continue, we are trying to expand into more states and really delve deeper into this national approach to support teacher residency pathways. We could go to the next slide. So our theory of change is centered on collective action from the field and vision and support from the state. So collective action from the field can look like collective efforts of gathering stakeholders, evidence, narrative shifts, and from the state, it's a signal from the top, investment and expectations with flexibility. Intentionally aligning efforts at the state and field levels so they are working in tandem and mutually reinforcing ways, which amplifies impact and drives real change. And as you can see here in this diagram, the little step stool in the middle, that's where Prepare to Teach operates. We are an intermediary working across these two entities to make sure that there are conversations, that there is that partnership building piece, and that definitions are clearly understood and being placed into the context in which we are working in. So we exist truly as an intermediary force across here. And I will drop in the chat our theory of change document that was just recently published. And that way you all can have that as a frame of reference. Oh, wrong link, but that's okay because I will need that one later. Okay, great. And we can move on to the next slide. So, and you can click through this one. It has some fun animations, but we can go through. So evidence is vast that paid teacher residency pathways or programs as apprenticeships can lead to well-prepared teachers. And rather than maintaining systems with multiple pathways of varying quality and positioning residencies as only open to some does not lead towards an equitable approach to strengthening the teacher workforce. So this vision allows teacher preparation systems to work within their local context and create opportunities for diverse candidates to enter the pathway through traditional programs at the traditional residency programs through the education, partners, their institution of higher educations, or through residency apprenticeships. So despite the varying local context, residencies work as a launchpad to establish high quality preparation and affordable preparation. And we can click through the next slide. Oh, there was another, and these are some examples of the different entry points into the pathway. So a sample case of where we saw this working is in New Mexico. We have worked very closely with our New Mexico partners since 2022, and we are entering the fourth year of statewide funding for teacher residents. And this is what the residency looks like in New Mexico. It is a one-year stipend of $35,000. There's simultaneous enrollment and wraparound coursework at a partner in college and university. Currently, we are working with 8 of the education preparation partners, placement in a fully immersive year-long clinically rich experience. We're at 41 districts across the state of New Mexico. We have some fun maps that are available on our website, and employment for 3 years following the residency. And residents are expected to sign on to this agreement prior to enrolling. And we have seen some great impact with this program since its launch in 2022. But before I talk a little bit about what that actually looks like on the ground, talk about one of the critical key pieces that allowed for this. And we can go on to the next slide. So within the residency definition and the work we did with Pathways, that Karen partnered with in creating the definition, this idea of partnership as being the key piece in collaborative community really resonated with the field work that we were doing in New Mexico, because the critical key for this work is embedded in this collaborative community and what we call a community of practice. So through communities of practice, which include stakeholders from department leaderships, from preparation program department leaderships, district and school leadership, residents and mentors on certain occasions. Their purpose was to provide this space to address the system needs to drive change and strengthen the pathway. This did not exist prior to us bringing this to the table in this way. And this is the reason why it's such a critical key piece, is that funded pilots sometimes lose a little bit of traction after early adopters and innovators. Without this partnership piece, this collaborative community piece, it's sometimes difficult to continue the work. When we bring this to the table, we've seen that there is a possibility to strengthen and grow. So in New Mexico, though, one of the key pieces is that the residencies were non-competitive funding. So funding was available to the partnering programs. But nonetheless, we found that the collaborative community really did establish that sense of trust and shared vision and shared definitions that is needed to move the work forward and to strengthen the residency pathway. We can move to the next slide. Through. So progress offers a proof point here. And here are some of the key pieces that we've seen from our work in New Mexico and the growth of residency programs in New Mexico. So we have 8 participating programs, 45 districts and charters, 1,268 residents since funding began in 2022. A third of the completers are coming through residencies. 2/3 of residents are people of color, and the total amount of state funding is $56 million currently. And it has just been renewed and voted on in the latest legislative session to continue funding residencies at this level. And one of the key pieces here is really that residencies have proved to be a positive response to a call to action that was brought forward to the New Mexico legislature, that they were not investing in the civics education and the education of underrepresented minority groups across the state of New Mexico, the Yazzie Martinez case. And residencies have truly addressed some of those calls to action, where we are supporting the preparation of candidates that resemble more the students that are in the classrooms, more equitable pathways in terms of removing financial barriers by providing stipends, which again open up the workforce in the field to candidates who traditionally we have not seen as often as the data shows. So I did put in the chat the link to the Time Is Now report, which is a case study on New Mexico and strengthening New Mexico's educator preparation system. And New Mexico is a blueprint for systems level change. And there were 2 key policy pieces that we identified to further this progress. One is indexing residency stipends to a level 1 teacher pay, and then establishing recurring funding for residencies. Both of these have been brought to the Legislative Education Committee as of last month, and there is a movement to have this be voted on the next legislative session, which opens in January. So we are seeing some very good progress and traction and growth within the teacher residencies in New Mexico. And we can move on to the next slide. So outside of the state approach, we are also trying to continue some national shifts towards paid teacher residencies. And we can move to the next slide. And some of this really lies on data-informed practices and learning. So we do have Prepared to Teach has an Aspiring Teachers Financial Burden Survey. We've been administering this since 2019. And we've done it at a national scale twice, and then at state level scales, maybe 3 times. But we are opening up to a more national approach for the next year. Please stay tuned to our newsletter. We will be releasing a interest form for that. But the survey does allow us to learn about teacher candidates' financial burdens, and evidence from the survey, whether actual quantitative data or some of the qualitative pieces that students respond, has served as evidence for legislative bodies, where programs are able to use this as parts of their presentations to advocate for paid clinical experiences and also for paid residencies. So that leads us into leveraging data for legislative bodies and how helpful that is. So Prepared to Teach does help states and preparation programs use existing and new data, whether through our financial burden survey or other data that they are interested in collecting, to support teacher residencies. And we are currently working with 2 states right now. We're working with Georgia and Wisconsin to use some data from the financial burden survey to get funding from the state to administer these surveys in order to move towards bringing paid clinical experience and paid teacher residencies to the session floor in their upcoming legislative sessions. So that's really big work because, as we know, these in the current climate, it's important to continue advocating for these experiences. And lastly, we are focused on data and accountability. So Prepared to Teach is an active participant within Pathways Data Infrastructure Group, where we're able to learn, share, and participate in thought partnership on building stronger data systems within teacher preparation pathways. We've also piloted a data interface tool with New Mexico to support residency data collection, again, to support understanding across the legislation, but also to provide that impact, the evidence of impact. And we are exploring other data-focused tools to support partners in apprenticeships. So we are taking this wraparound approach of how much can we learn and how much we can participate with the support of the Pathways Alliance to further our goal and our mission, to continue shifting the narrative and to continue supporting systems change and this intermediary work that places us in a pivotal time for this country. And all right, that is it for me. And I will pass it off to Beth at Full Scale. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll stop sharing and allow Beth, you can share your slides. Thank you. Excited to hear from you, Beth.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for having me. And I think, so first off, I am Full Scale. We are a brand new organization that is the merged group of the Learning Accelerator and the Aurora Institute. And we joined as a founding member as the Learning Accelerator. And I think that's a bit of context that's important, where we thought it was incredibly crucial for us as an organization that said, there's lots of great things happening across the sector, and often those things are happening in silos away from each other. So in our TLA space, we thought it was critical to be part of Pathways to really fulfill that role of building bridges, right? How are we bringing people together? How are we making sure that we're connecting the dots? As Full Scale, that's really remained core to our mission. Again, how are we building these bridges? How are we transforming systems? And so really wanting to start with a little bit of framing of where we are as an organization and the value that we're seeing from the Pathways Alliance, and also what we're bringing to the Pathways Alliance. So in this new capacity as a new organization, we really envision a world where every human can reach their full potential. This is incredibly important to us, and we think that has to happen through 2 unique factors. So if we put every single child, every single student at the center of the system, for system transformation to be able to occur, we need this combination. We need really powerful teaching and learning practices, and we need to make sure that the system policies and the conditions allow for that success. And so understanding that whether it's educator preparation programs or apprenticeships or residency programs, and we've had our hands in lots of different ways in this, we see that as a core system condition, right? What is the professional learning? What is the sustainability? how are we making sure that the experts who are coming into our systems are really prepared to make this a reality at scale? And we talk about scale being this breadth, depth, and durability. We want to make sure that every student has the education that lets them reach their full potential. We want to make sure that we're working deeply within states and within systems. And we want to make sure that we're doing that in a way that's very sustainable. So as an organization, if we hold that student in the center, we really believe that every young person should have this education that's personalized to their unique needs and interests, and motivations. And that's a key factor as it has driven some of the work that we've done, particularly with residency programs. We think about how it's competency based, or it's really ensuring that learning is a measure of knowledge, skills, and capabilities, and not just a measure of seat time, which again is also really core to the types of programs that we've been looking at. And then we really focus on ensuring that it's like whole self developing. We see both the academic, the social emotional, the non-cognitive. Like, how are we really thinking about making sure that students can reach that full potential? And the way that we do that is through three core sets of activities, right? Again, we think about bridging divides and crossing silos. What are the ways that we can connect the dots between policy, practice, and research? That's another core moment here at the Pathways Alliance, right? How are we bringing these organizations together? How are we working across, all of these great partners? And when I show you a moment, some of like our actual tangible work, you'll see that, we're using the prepared to teach frameworks. We're thinking about, what's the role that Deans for Impact is playing as we think about what is our new way of focusing on educator preparation programs, right? So how do we, connect these dots? We think about generating evidence and knowledge. We have a full research and evaluation teams. We work alongside our practitioner partners to make sure that we're understanding how these new programs are working in their context and for those students. And we really think about how are we accelerating our collective work. So what are the ways that we can elevate the work of our partners, that we can build networks across state leaders, system leaders to be advancing the kind of work that we're thinking of? So very specific to pathways and what this looks like when we think about residency programs. Our work in this on the ground really started with Lindsay Unified School District back in 2021. And so Lindsay decided that they wanted to launch a residency program to solve a very unique need. They originally had funding through a federal teaching school leadership initiative and said, we know that our model is different. We're not getting the kinds of educators out of some of the traditional teacher preparation programs that we need to come operate inside a school that's, it's competency based, it's performance based. They really believe that content is leveled, not students. So lots of, dual grade level classrooms, self-contained classrooms from K through 8. It's a very different model to meet the needs of a very different set of students. So to help them design that residency program, to think about how are they really developing and deploying the experts that would work for their kids, we started with the prepared to teach model back when it was still with Bank Street. And we, I miss Karen DeMoss, right? Like talking to Karen and saying like, how do we put this model into action? We did field research and we talked to lots of different kinds of residency models and pulled it together into our first report that Lindsay then used to actually design their model in collaboration with Alder Graduate School for Education. Then in 22, we helped conduct the program evaluation of that first model. What's interesting is we're now staying with them. They're now multiple years into their residency program. Thanks to the state of California, they are still funding their residency program. And we're now starting to look with them and say, what can we start to think about next? And I think that's what takes us into some final questions that we're really asking both of ourselves and that we're putting out to the sector of saying, what do we think are like, how are we preparing educators who can ensure that students can learn anywhere and anytime, right? What are the skills and the competencies they need to be successful? Again, we're thinking much more broadly than where we might be today. We've been doing a lot of work in the virtual and hybrid space, and we're understanding that educators need a new set of skills and competencies. We're very excited to be launching a new project with Lindsay, and we're really asking, like, what's the role of technology and AI in preparing future educators? Like, how is it not just allowing them to develop literacies, but how is it actually preparing them as future educators, particularly when they're moving into these more innovative, personalized competency-based models? And then, our last piece that we're really asking is, as we look at all of the change happening in the sector, beyond just the classroom teachers, but like, what are the experts that we really need to build in the field so that we can ensure that every student reaches their full and unique potential? So we are in a slightly different place. We love the work that all of our partners are doing with the Pathways Alliance. We're always looking to see, like, what can we learn from them, but we're sitting in a slightly different space as an organization of trying really hard to say, how do we bring all of these initiatives together? And then what are the big questions that we can be asking to move the field forward? So I'm excited to hear from everyone else, and I'm going to stop my share and pass it back over to Sabrina.
Thank you. And now we'll hear from Chandler Rowland at Public Impact.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. Thanks so much for having us. We're really excited to be here and chat more about this meaningful partnership and how this has impacted our work. I'm excited to talk a little bit more about the Opportunity Culture Initiative, which Public Impact founded, and we continue to expand and scale across the country with our work, including some great stuff happening with teacher residencies and apprenticeships. And so kind of going back a little bit, thinking about when Pathways formed, we know that, teacher prep was at a pretty serious kind of inflection point after all these years of declining interest in the teaching profession, and that really raising a pretty red flag for the Opportunity Culture Initiative, thinking about our mission to reach every student with an excellent teacher every year. And really thinking about how we can continue to build out a more robust teaching pipeline that meets educators at any need, right? So whether that is all the way to our pre-service teachers, to our teachers that have been in the profession for multiple years, really wanting to ensure that all of those avenues are really well taken care of. And so thinking about, all of the learning loss during COVID, and thinking about how we can remedy a lot of these learning challenges, a lot of appreciation here for Pathways and how they elevated the importance of this topic. And I think more specifically, the role that dramatically better clinical experiences could play in preparing people to enter into the teaching profession. So our work here really started to pick up in 2019 when we were working with a group of about a dozen districts in Texas that were already integrating sustainable paid residencies into their overall staffing models that they designed with opportunity culture. And the piece there that I'll just name, if you're not familiar with opportunity culture staffing designs, is we really work closely with districts and schools to redesign the way that they approach school through staffing and scheduling in a way that it's going to allow for an excellent teacher leader to be at the helm of a small teaching team that they are fully accountable for. And that teacher leader is going to earn more compensation for this elevated leadership responsibility. The key piece there is that we want this paid, these additional funds and stipends associated with these roles to be fully sustainable within regular school budgets, so that schools can continue to have the autonomy, and we can continue to empower them to create staffing structures that are going to best meet them and evolve as those needs change. And so we think, why can't we also apply this same kind of principle and thought in sustaining and creating residency and apprenticeship experiences where we have that pre-service teacher paired with this excellent team leader serving as their mentor and really giving them that dedicated attention to their development, but also ensuring that this is an experience that could be accessible to a variety of folks, ensuring that they are paid for this work that they're going to be engaging in across these teams. So that work started for us in Texas in 2019, and we'd seen some pretty great results in terms of combining these opportunity culture staffing models with the opportunity to also have paid apprentices and residents. But that was pretty limited, just to around 120 schools out of the 600 plus schools that were implementing or are implementing opportunity culture models nationally. And so we're thinking about pathways and how this has helped to draw attention to residencies, and also bringing the registered apprenticeship element to the forefront has really been a way for us to think about how we can fund a lot more pay for these on-the-job learning experiences for teacher candidates, whether these are going to be paraprofessionals that are deeply committed to their communities, career switchers, but also thinking about those with no teaching experience or training, college students on the path to teaching, really thinking about all of the ways in which this could just broaden that pipeline and make it more accessible and attractive to a variety of folks wherever they may be in considering the teaching profession. This work for us has really continued to expand in North Carolina, where I'm joining you from today. So we have continued to partner with the Innovation Project and another organization called Best in C, and we're bringing these models across the state of North Carolina, which you may know has been a pretty good leader in thinking about how we can create these teacher-led teams via state funds using the Advanced Teaching Roles Grant here in North Carolina. Which currently has these advanced teacher leader roles in about a third of our state's districts. And this year, we're really excited to be piloting a apprenticeship component with 4 districts in the state that are designing their opportunity culture models this year. So we're really looking forward to having some apprentices in place at the start of next school year in these opportunity culture models, led and supported by these multi-classroom leaders and these folks receiving full salary and compensation for their role while also achieving their certification for teaching. And then the last piece that I'll share is that, to build on these results, we're really excited to announce that pretty soon we're going to be able to begin offering certified opportunity culture residency and apprenticeship designations, because we think it's really important to recognize and encourage more of this innovation that we're seeing among EPPs, and thinking about encouraging resident placement in schools where high growth learning is far more common and has the structures for great teacher leaders to be the primary support and mentor for these residents and apprentices to prepare them for their teaching career. And so we're excited and expect to recognize several pathways, including thinking about the final years of your bachelor's degree, licensure years, master's degrees, even high school level internships. I'm sure, as you all already know, we believe that all aspiring new and veteran teachers should have the chance to continue to develop, to learn, to grow in their practice directly from those teachers that are already achieving high growth and leading teams to also achieve very similar results. So our first paid residencies really launched over a decade ago in Tennessee, and we've had this continued innovation in Texas, and now a lot of really great work happening in North Carolina. And so just thinking about the opportunity that this presents to recognize and encourage this similar type of innovation that's going to allow for consistent, sustainable funding to really open up these pathways to more individuals to take advantage of. We think it's really important as a part of our opportunity culture design, just as we continue to build out the entry points and the career ladders for teachers. And we're excited to have this become a more formal part of the supports and offerings for schools and EPPs as they continue their partnerships and thinking about ways to create really robust clinical experiences, but also those that are going to be compensated and allow for folks to grow in a way that they don't have to necessarily be worried about choosing between school and a new career and staying where they are. So we're just really excited with all the work that we've been able to start as a part of this partnership and to see it grow through our models.
Thank you so much, Chandler. Each of you all represent a unique perspective, but collectively you all remind us why this work matters. And thank you all for sharing the work that you guys are doing currently, and truly what's possible when collaboration is real. When funding and policy also aligns with values, and when we center aspiring teachers as both learners and leaders. So I definitely just want to take a moment to thank you all for sharing your experiences and the work that you all do. And I will really talk about what's ahead for Pathways as we celebrate 4 years of incredible progress. We also know that this is only the beginning, and the next chapter of the Pathways Alliance is really about deepening our impact and also scaling, and ensuring that systems we've built continue to evolve alongside the needs of educators, schools, and students. So some of the things that we look forward to is first, deepening our data infrastructure to support interoperability and program accountability. And that looks like connecting program data to workforce outcomes in real time. Next, strengthening technical assistance through state cohorts so that new and existing apprenticeship programs receive consistent implementation support. And we also look forward to expanding our exploration of AI and emerging technologies to link educator preparation data and workforce systems, making learning and labor data speak the same language. And finally, we continued enhancing storytelling and visibility, hopefully amplifying the stories of state and local partners to attract new collaborators, policymakers, and funders who believe in our vision. Our mission remains clear, is to ensure every aspiring educator has a clear, affordable, and high-quality pathway into the profession, no matter where their journey begins. And we thank you all for joining us today. And of course, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to always head to the Pathways Alliance website to engage in any of our resources. And also, this recording will also live in our video library. And if you would also like to engage with some of our partners, please feel free to contact me. I'm happy to share contact information and loop those bridges so that way we can continue constant communication and sharing of resources and information. We look forward to crossing paths with you again. Thank you all for joining us today in our special 4-year anniversary webinar. Thank you all for the gracious work that you all have been doing for the past 4 years and continue to do. And happy Friday. We'll see you all soon. Thank you, everybody.